Hello, everybody, and good morning. Welcome to the Top Producer Show. So our mission is to educate, equip, and train servant leaders. Our vision is to create financially independent achievers, and our mission is to help people grow. And right now we're going over the book, Think and Grow Rich. And before we go into the next chapter, we're going to go ahead and invite some people. I need to fix this camera slightly. It looks crooked. There we go. Now we're straight. Alrighty. We're going to get this done very quickly, or at least try to get it done as quickly as possible. I know this is like the longest part of this show, but we're going to get it done.
Yeah, the beginning of the show always has a lot of fun with that, but
oh yeah,
we can also tag people.
all right, and here we go.
Just tagging a couple people here. Hello, good morning to everybody. Happy January 21st. It's hard to believe it's already here, right? But necessary. So we're on the book Think and Grow Rich, which is an amazing book. And we're on chapter 13. And if you look at the top, we're looking over the top 13 steps towards riches. And I'm just going to read this off. I'm trying to copy and paste here something over before we get started. Just to kind of recap, desire is the number one. Oh, did I do that wrong? Yes. I can't believe I just copy and pasted nothing. So you do not have to be smart, technically savvy to think and grow rich. It's interesting, you don't hear anything about a savings account. You don't hear anything about going to school, getting good grades, checking in, that kind of stuff. So, desire. Desire is the number one thing. And I don't know if these are necessarily written in the order of absolute importance, but my guess is they probably lean that way. Desire is the number one. If you can figure out the desire, you can pretty much figure out everything else. I've heard that from many, many successful people. They're like, if you know why, you will figure out how. The second thing is faith. The faith to do something long enough knowing that it's going to work. Number one, you have to get around people who know what to do. And when you get around people who know what to do and you're doing it, you have to have the faith that it can work for you too. And I mean, especially in network marketing and direct sales, there are some really, really, really great stories of people who didn't have their shit together, who didn't, come from money, who didn't have, all the head start things that people would think. They're like, oh, so many other people are way in front, and they were able to surpass everybody. Why? Number one, they had desire, unbelievable desire. Number two, they had faith. Number three, autosuggestion. They just kept telling themselves, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. I know I can succeed, because if somebody's done something before, you can do it if you follow what they did. That's pretty much how it works. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, like Larry Bird went out and shot, 1,000, shots before, school every single day. I could do the same thing, but I'm not going to play in the NBA. Why? There's a physical limitation. So there's certain things you kind of have to look into. It doesn't work in every instance. Whereas I'm about 200 pounds. I could love horses. I could love horse racing, but I'm never going to be a jockey. Why? Because I'm not 5'1" and 57 pounds or whatever. I mean, they're pretty light. So, auto-suggestion. You tell yourself over and over again, specialized knowledge. Where do you get specialized knowledge from? Well, there's a couple places to get it from. You can get it from textbooks. You can get it from YouTube. You can get it from experts in the field. But you have to be smart enough to know who to listen to and who not to listen to, because there's an incredibly amount of dumbasses out there telling you how to do stuff that A, haven't done it, or B, have done it 100 years ago and have no idea what's going on right now. That's probably not the best place to get information from. If anytime you're getting specialized knowledge, you want the knowledge that's right now, along with the knowledge that has principles that have worked over time. Think and Grow Rich is obviously 127 years old, but this is a book that's been recommended by basically every single successful person I've met that's made millions. Not 50,000, not 75,000, not 100,000, but millions. This book gets recommended, and it gets recommended in a lot of different places. Like, I've heard it recommended in real estate seminars, insurance seminars, financial services. I've heard it, in direct sales, in MLM, in affiliate marketing, in internet marketing. Everybody talks about this book. So specialized knowledge, you need to get some. Organized planning. Organized planning, if you're not great at organized planning, you need to go off of somebody else's plan. Organized planning could be when you should do something, why you should do something, how you should do something, right? Imagination. The ability to imagine things going right. Imagination and faith have a lot to do with each other, because your imagination is the thing that creates fear. It's also the thing that creates faith. So you kind of have to, use that on a regular basis. Imagination helps you come up with the ideas you need to succeed. The person told me that they had this unbelievable marketing plan, and their dad was the president or head of, some organization, which is great. You don't have that dad, you don't have that organization, you don't have that marketing plan. You're gonna have to use your imagination to figure out how you can do it. Decision, the ability to be decisive, the ability to take in all the information, go, what do we need to do, and here's what we need to do. That chapter is really interesting because it says, people who figure this out make decisions and change their mind very seldom. It's very easy for successful people to make decisions. John Maxwell talks about it's the power of saying no. It's the power of saying no. That helps out a lot. Catherine's here. Hello. So decision, the power of saying no, persistence, being able to go, the long mile, even when it doesn't feel, even when the feeling leaves, you still are doing what it takes. Broadcasting. So power of the mastermind, getting around other like-minded people who can, think through things. Sometimes, and I've noticed this, you have 4 different personalities. You have the decision makers, the doers, the decisive. They're going to go out and just figure it out. They're going to go out and work regardless, if they have all the information right. You have the inspirational ones that are great idea people. They're very shitty at following through. Oh my God, it'd be great if we could do this. Okay, how you gonna do that? I don't know. And then the next time you talk to them, they don't even remember that they had the conversation. And they just like to get around and talk. I have a bunch of people who I know they're the funnest people in the world to hang out with. But they're probably the worst to work around because, they just don't get anything done. They just get together a lot. And usually you can always tell these people, because usually the conversation won't focus so much on what the objective is. It'll focus a lot on what they're drinking, what they're eating, and, who they've talked to lately. So then you have the deep thinkers. Those are the C-type personalities that you're going to get around. They are more about logic, and, it's great to bounce ideas off of them. So if you want inspiration, you need to get motivated again. It's great to be around, the group of people who, can motivate, have a good time. That sparks imagination sometimes. I love to hang out with that group because I always get an idea or two that I can go back and actually physically use. The C-types are great to hang out with, to run ideas by, because they can punch holes in everything for you. Sometimes it pisses you off, but at the same time, they do bring up some points. They see things from a different angle. They will be able to point out things you don't think of. And then you have the S-type personalities. I love to run things by the S-type personalities because I'm like, how well will this idea fly with somebody who seeks security? How well will this idea fly with somebody who seeks safety, who needs like an absolute positively laid out plan where anybody could do? So I run this through these different personalities for ideas, and the persistence of doing it. And then the mastermind, you want all of these people represented. You want all of these personalities represented, which can be a challenge. That's why people skills are so important, because how are you going to get 4 different kinds of people who see things 4 different ways, all to collaborate and communicate together for the objective of being able to get ahead? And then yesterday we talked about sex transmutation. The ability to use that desire, the number one desire a person has to be able to move forward and make things happen. So the subconscious mind is today, the brain. The subconscious mind, the brain. The broadcasting station and receiving station for all of thought. Use your head. A lot of people would say that. Use your head. The 12th step towards riches is the brain. Your brain receives and broadcasts all ideas from this center. The result of high emotion and feeling is the increase of thought to such a pitch that creative imagination becomes highly receptive to new ideas. So when you're in a peak emotional state, Drake, what's happening? When you're in a peak emotional state, what happens is you have the ability to use your brain on another level. It's almost like plugging, your brain into a supercomputer where you have access to better ideas. You have access to better methodologies. You have access to better people. You're able to remember better. Some people get into a peak state because of stimulants, whether it be caffeine or any other pharmaceutical that's out there. Street pharmaceutical sometimes. Other ways to create a peak state are things like exercise, patterns of thought, inspirational movies, inspirational music. Some people dance, some people run around, some people jump up and down. Tony Robbins gets everybody in a peak state by basically motion. Motion creates emotion is the easiest way to put it. The speed at which you talk, the speed at which you think, that has a lot to do with it. So, the subconscious mind is the sending station of the brain through which all vibrations of thought are broadcasted. So, your subconscious mind is so important because you have the logical side up front that's like, I'm tired, this is what's going on. And your subconscious mind is basically the pre-programmed stuff that you have there. So if you don't go in and direct that pre-programmed stuff to be able to accomplish the things you want, it'd be very difficult. Operation of your mental broadcasting station is comparatively simple procedure. They talked about that, about being able to program. Repeating something in a peak state over and over and over again, autosuggestion was one of the ways to program the subconscious mind. So it is repetition of the same message, which is why if you look at commercials or anything on TV really, or any media site, it's why they keep putting out the same picture, the same image, the same picture, the same image. I mean, how many times have you watched some of these damn commercials to the point where you know them? Like, I love to go through like old commercials. Like you can go on YouTube and find commercials from the 70s, commercials from the 80s. Now, I was born in the 70s, but grew up in the 80s, 90s. And when I say grew up, that's when I was in, elementary school through high school. So being able to go back and look at those commercials, it brings emotion back. It's crazy. You'll see a commercial and it'll actually bring an emotion back of a certain place, a certain time, where you were, what was going on. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But I still remember the commercials, which is really scary. You still remember the music and the tone. And they do things like color, picture, sound, because they're trying to hit every single, because you receive information through the 5 senses. So they're trying to hit all of the 5 senses when they're trying to program you. And program you, sometimes they're programming you for branding, you want to buy our name, and then sometimes they're trying to program you for the product, and sometimes they're trying to program you for the philosophy, right? The philosophy of this is what you should do. This is what you should do. There were a lot of commercials after World War II that were directed to, this is what you should do, this is what you should believe. And even during World War II, I looked back at some of the advertising during World War II. Basically, if you start like in the 40s, early 40s, and go through into the 50s, if you look at the commercials then, it's really interesting. Also, crazy sexist, racist. I mean, they kind of hit all angles. It's interesting, to say the least. Something to, if you want to waste a lot of time on YouTube, great to go look at. Mm-hmm. Operation of your mental broadcasting station is comparatively a simple procedure. Of course, repeating it over and over again in a peak state. How do you get to a peak state? Talked about that. You have 3 principles to bear in mind and apply. When you wish to use your broadcasting station, you have the subconscious mind, you have your creative imagination, and you have auto-suggestion. The subconscious mind is where you want to get all the ideas to. You want to pre-program the subconscious mind to be like, I am going to be successful. I have a friend that, made it really big inside of an industry, and he was not the most excited guy when he started. So he would go to the mirror and literally kind of psych himself up, put himself in the state before he'd go to a meeting. And he's like, guys, I really had to do this. Like, this isn't a joke. He read this book, and he would tell himself, boy, I'm excited. And he would just kind of work himself up to the point where he would come across like that, because that's how ideas come across. You actually do influence people by your energy. And we've all felt this. I mean, have you ever felt like down and out and, you just can't put things together, and all of a sudden somebody comes over that just is full of energy and you start getting energized again, and you're like, okay, let's go do whatever you want to go do. I'm tired, but I'm going to go. So, those 3 principles, the subconscious mind, creative imagination. I found the best way to get new ideas is feed yourself some old ideas. That's the objective, is you want to go back and you want to watch certain things. You want to read certain things. So constant input of ideas helps you with your imagination. That's why stories are so important. Stories are told, usually get people into a peak state. Great storytellers especially do this. Will get you into a peak state and then teach you the lesson, and then it basically dives deep, so that way you get maximum impact when you're trying to teach somebody something. Dave, what's happening? Chelsea, how are you? So this is really, really powerful stuff if you know how to direct it. And it's kind of like you have to take it in pieces. Like, what's the most important thing to work on right now? Is it desire? Is it imagination? I think the most important thing you can possibly do is listen to stories of people who are successful, because that's going to penetrate the subconscious mind. What it's also going to do is give you a ton of ideas. And good ideas, right? Because, there's a bunch of bad ideas out there. You don't have to look for bad ideas. You just scroll through Facebook, you see a ton of them. You're looking for the good ideas, and typically the good ideas are the principles and people that have been around for a long, long time to show you how to do that. So, logic. This is another thing that the brain has the ability to do. I learned this from being around some very successful people. They said, look at the numbers, does it add up? Look at the numbers, does it add up? That's one of the things I do. When somebody's trying to convince me of anything, or like whether, I don't care if it's political, I don't care if it's business, I don't care if it's anything. Like, somebody kind of pitched an idea to us the other day about a certain industry, and I went and started looking up the numbers. How many people are in this profession? What does the average person make in the profession? The average person makes in the profession $85,000, which is pretty good. How much do they make in the state of Indiana? I was able to look that up. How many are there in the country? How many are there in the United States? How many are there outside the country? Because, just in case you want to go outside the country. Look at the numbers. I looked at all the numbers. I was like, okay, this is adding up. This makes sense. It is there. What is the average school time? Now, then it becomes, what does it cost? I know physically what it costs to open the business itself that we were looking at, the profession. It costs about $100,000 to set up an office specifically to have all the stuff you need. And that's full blown for, the industry that I was looking into, because we were looking at expanding, our current studio. So look at the numbers, does it add up? Pattern recognition is another thing. Trends is another thing. The brain can recognize trends and patterns if you're looking at trends and patterns on a regular basis. Where do you go? Go to where the money is. The easiest one that I've seen is if you want to recognize a trend or pattern or something that's coming, Gary Vaynerchuk said every morning he would get ready for work and, get up in the morning, brush his teeth, whatever. And the very first thing he did is he would open up his phone, where most people are scrolling through shit that's not helping them, meaning Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, watching dumbass, things that are funny, but like absolutely don't help you at all. But they're pre-programming you to fail, pre-programming you to get you to be there all the time, and not participate in conversations that you should probably be participating in, not listening when you should be listening. That's what most people do first thing in the morning. Gary opens his up and he looks at the top 100 to top 150 downloaded apps. And he says certain times you'll see certain things hit the 150 list and they'll start moving up 150, 120, 110, 100, 90. He goes, when they go from 90 to crack the top 50 downloaded, most downloaded sites, he really starts paying attention to where they're going. And every day he looks at it and every day he just evaluates. He was able to recognize trends like TikTok. He was able to recognize trends like Periscope originally before Facebook came out with Facebook Live, which obviously completely dominated because they already had the eyes on the platform, but it was dangerous. Periscope was on the move. I mean, it took off when it first started because it was the ability to interact and the ability to influence tons of people. So you can actually recognize these trends. Pattern recognition, repetition. What do you see over and over and over and over again? What are they putting in front of your face over and over and over again? What are they trying to convince you of? So here's a way that I look at stuff when people bring ideas to me or I'm watching, anything. Who said it? One of the first things I look at is who said it. When did they say it? Why did they say it? What did they say and what are they trying to get me to believe? What are they trying to convince you of? Where does the money, the power, and the influence go? If I believe this, where does the money, where does the power, where does the influence go? And how do they want me to see this? Or how do they want me to participate? So I look at this different stuff from all angles. That's kind of how I evaluate things. Logic, look at the numbers, does it add up? Pattern recognition, have I seen it before? Who's used it before? Why have they used it? And then, figuring out, really the deeper meaning, who said it, when did they say it, why did they say it, what did they say, and what are they trying to get me to believe or convince me of? Where does the money, the power, and the influence go, and how do they want me to act from here on now that I have this information? This is commercials, this is speeches, this is, mask mandates, this is social distancing, this is I look at all that stuff. Is it logical? Does it add up? Pattern recognition, are they doing the same thing everywhere? Or is it complete bullshit and everywhere is different? One place the gym's open, another place the gym is closed. You can go in the lazy pool, but you can't go in the hot tub. Who is making those decisions and why are they making those decisions? What is this really about, right? If you don't ask those questions, you just blindly follow along, you'll walk right into the guillotine, basically. And a lot of people are headed that direction. So the same thing is true in business. The same thing is true in business. You get into business and everybody bombards you with advertising. Oh my God, you need SEO. Oh my God, you need a website. Oh my gosh. I get told, Yelp kind of messaged me 5, 6, 7 times yesterday. And I'm like, I wrote him back. I said, I will never fucking use your program ever. Just save yourself the time, energy, take me out of your list. We own multiple businesses. You just mark us down for all of them. I'll never use your program. I'll never advertise with you. I'll never spend money and I'll never recommend you. Why? Because I looked up what they do. I looked up the numbers and I'll never work with them, ever. I'm like, if you gave me the program for free and paid me, I wouldn't use you. He didn't call me back. So that's what we got for today. Use your brain. It's a very uncommon thing to be used.
And the biggest thing is by reading all the books and figuring out the questions that you need to ask. In the beginning, when you're brand new, you're not going to know the questions to ask, which is why it's good to have a mentor and it's good to read. And it's good to read the right books because you can read about business from anybody, but that's why you want to look into what has this person accomplished? What are they doing right now? and are they still staying current with what's going on? Because those are the people that you want to learn from. Because we get questions all the time like, who would you recommend? And I'm like, well, it really depends on what industry you're in. What are you focusing on? And you need to look up the people that are in your field who are the top producers, and then are they still staying current? And what information can they teach you? And that's where you want to look. You don't want to look at you don't want to look at anybody, or just anybody, because there's some people who have been in industries forever, but they don't do well. There are some people that do that, and you don't want to be learning from somebody who isn't doing well, because obviously that's not going to help you either. So with that is what we have for you guys today. If you haven't yet, you want to go to the Top Producer Show Facebook page, and you want to join that page, because we're going to share these notes to you, so that way you have them. And also go to YouTube and follow us on YouTube. Each one of these videos is going to be uploaded to there, and that way if you want to go back and rewatch this, you are more than welcome to. So with that is what we have for you guys today, and we will see you tomorrow. Oh my goodness, she's trying to get me.